Hey everyone, welcome back. So in the second part of this video, I'm going to continue walking you through over 50 real-world cybersecurity interview questions, along with detailed practical answers that are easy to understand and apply. Let's continue. Question: what are the benefits of cybersecurity? Some of the key benefits of cybersecurity are data protection. Cybersecurity measures help safeguard the organization's critical data, including customer information, intellectual property, and financial records, from unauthorized access, theft, or corruption. Protecting data integrity and confidentiality is crucial for maintaining trust and compliance with regulatory requirements. Business continuity. Effective cybersecurity practices such as incident response planning and disaster recovery can help the organization minimize the impact of security incidents and ensure business continuity. This allows the organization to maintain its operations, productivity, and reputation even in the face of cyber threats. Regulatory compliance? Compliance with industry-specific regulations and standards, such as GDPR, HIPAA, or PCI DSS, is often a key driver for implementing comprehensive cybersecurity measures. Adhering to these regulations can help organizations avoid costly fines, legal liabilities, and reputational damage. Reputation and customer trust? Robust cybersecurity posture can enhance an organization's reputation and instill confidence in its customers, partners, and stakeholders. This can lead to improved brand loyalty, customer retention, and new business opportunities. Question: what is the difference between an intrusion detection system, IDS, and an intrusion prevention system, IPS? The key differences between an intrusion detection system, IDS, and an intrusion prevention system, IPS, are detection versus prevention. An IDS is a security system that monitors network traffic and system activities for signs of malicious or suspicious behavior. It is designed to detect and alert on potential security incidents. An IPS, on the other hand, is a more proactive security system that not only detects potential threats, but also takes automated actions to prevent or mitigate them. Question: how do you secure a server? I would take the following steps to secure a server. Patch and update. Ensure the server's operating system and all installed software are kept up to date with the latest security patches and updates. This helps mitigate known vulnerabilities and reduce the attack surface. Restrict access. Implement strong access control measures such as multi-factor authentication for both remote and local access to the server. Grant the minimum required privileges to users and administrators, following the principle of least privilege. Firewall configuration. Configure the firewall to allow only the necessary inbound and outbound network traffic, blocking all unnecessary ports and protocols. Regularly review and update the firewall rules to align with changing security requirements. Question: why is domain name system DNS monitoring important? Here's why DNS monitoring is important. Visibility into network activity. DNS is the foundation of the internet as it translates human-readable domain names into IP addresses that computers can understand. By monitoring DNS traffic, I can gain valuable insights into the network activity within the organization, including which domains and IP addresses are being accessed by users and systems. Question: what's the difference between hashing, encoding, and encrypting? Hashing is a one-way process that produces a fixed-length unique identifier for data, primarily used for data integrity and verification. Encoding is the conversion of data into a different format, often for compatibility or transmission purposes, without any inherent security benefits. Encryption is the process of transforming readable data into an unreadable format using a cryptographic algorithm and a secret key, providing confidentiality and security for the data. Question: if you had to compress and encrypt data during a transmission, which would you do first and why? If I needed to both compress and encrypt data during a transmission, I would recommend compressing the data first and then encrypting the compressed data. Here's the rationale behind this approach. Compression efficiency. Compressing the data first can significantly reduce the overall size of the information being transmitted. Smaller data size translates to faster transmission times and lower bandwidth requirements, which is particularly beneficial in scenarios with limited network resources or high latency connections. Encryption effectiveness. Encrypting the compressed data is more effective than encrypting the uncompressed data. Compression can help increase the entropy of the data, making it more challenging for an attacker to perform cryptanalysis and extract meaningful information from the encrypted data. Performance optimization. Compressing the data first and then encrypting the compressed data is generally more efficient in terms of computational resources and processing time. Encrypting larger, uncompressed data can be more computationally intensive and can impact the overall performance of the transmission process. By following the compress then encrypt approach, I can optimize the data transmission process, improve the overall security of the communication, and ensure compatibility with industry standards and best practices. Question: define the salting process and explain its purpose. The salting process involves adding a random, unique string of characters, called a salt, to the input data, such as a password, before applying a hashing algorithm. This salt is typically stored alongside the hashed value in the system. The purpose of salting is to protect against rainbow table attacks. Rainbow tables are pre-computed tables that map common passwords or password hashes to their corresponding plaintext values. By adding a salt to the password before hashing, the resulting hash becomes unique and cannot be easily looked up in a pre-computed rainbow table. Increase hashing complexity. Salting the input data before hashing increases the complexity of the hashing process, making it more computationally expensive for an attacker to brute force or guess the original password. This helps mitigate the risk of password cracking, even if the attacker has access to the hashed values. Defend against identical password attacks. Without salting, if two users have the same password, their hashed values would also be identical, potentially revealing the shared password. By adding a unique salt to each password, the resulting hashes will be different, even for the same underlying password, preventing the identification of identical passwords. Question: if you work with a Linux server, what are the 3 steps you can take to secure it? 1. Patch and update the system. 2. Implement strong access controls. 3. Harden the server configuration. Disable or remove any unnecessary services, applications, or daemons running on the server. Configure the firewall to allow only the necessary inbound and outbound network traffic, blocking all unnecessary ports and protocols. Review and optimize system settings, such as disabling unnecessary features, hardening the SSH configuration, and ensuring secure file permissions. Question: you get a call from an executive who tells you to bend company policy and let them use their home device for company work. What do you do? I would handle this situation firmly yet professionally. Here's how I would respond. 1. Explain the risks. I would politely explain to the executive the security risks and potential consequences of using a personal, unmanaged device for company work. I would highlight the increased vulnerability to data breaches, malware infections, and unauthorized access that comes with using an uncontrolled device. 2. Reiterate company policy. 3. Propose secure alternatives. Instead of allowing the use of the personal device, I would suggest secure alternatives, such as providing the executive with a company-issued and managed device, or setting up a secure remote access solution. This would allow the executive to access the necessary resources while ensuring the appropriate security controls are in place. 4. Escalate if necessary. If the executive continues to insist on using their personal device, I would respectfully escalate the issue to my immediate supervisor or the information security manager. I would explain the situation and the potential risks and seek guidance on how to best handle the executive's request while maintaining the organization's security standards. 5. Document the interaction. Throughout the conversation, I would carefully document the executive's request, my responses, and any escalation or decisions made. This documentation would serve as a record in case further action or justification is required. Question: tell me about a mistake you made in a previous job and how you handled it. Absolutely. Earlier in my career, I was leading a cybersecurity awareness training session for a group of non-technical employees. The goal was to educate them on common cyber threats and best practices for protecting the organization's sensitive information. During the session, I made the mistake of using overly technical language and security jargon that the audience was not familiar with. I failed to tailor the content and delivery to their level of understanding, which resulted in a disconnect and disengagement from the participants. At the end of the session, I recognized that the training did not resonate as well as it should have with the audience. I reached out to the participants and the training organizers to gather feedback on the session. I asked for their insights on what worked well, what didn't, and how I could improve the content and delivery. Based on the feedback, I revised the training materials and presentation style to use more plain language, relatable examples, and interactive exercises. I delivered the revised training session, focusing on clear, jargon-free communication and ensuring the content was relevant and applicable to the participants' daily routines. Question: tell me about several types of sniffing attacks. 1. Packet sniffing. This is the most basic form of sniffing attack, where an attacker uses a network sniffer tool to capture and analyze network traffic passing through a network segment. The attacker can potentially intercept and read sensitive information, such as login credentials, email contents, and other confidential data transmitted in clear text over the network. 2. ARP spoofing. In an ARP spoofing attack, the attacker sends forged ARP messages to redirect network traffic through their machine, allowing them to intercept and sniff the traffic. By poisoning the ARP cache of other devices on the network, the attacker can position themselves as a man in the middle and capture the network traffic. 3. DHCP spoofing. DHCP spoofing involves an attacker setting up a rogue DHCP server on the network to provide incorrect network configuration information, such as a malicious DNS server or gateway, to the clients. This can enable the attacker to intercept and sniff the network traffic, as the clients will unknowingly send their data to the attacker's system. 4. DNS spoofing. Also known as DNS cache poisoning, this attack involves the attacker injecting false DNS information into a DNS server's cache, causing the server to provide clients with incorrect IP addresses. By redirecting the clients to a malicious server, the attacker can perform a man-in-the-middle attack and sniff the network traffic. 5. VLAN hopping. VLAN hopping is a technique where an attacker can gain unauthorized access to a different VLAN on a switched network, allowing them to sniff the traffic within that VLAN. This can be achieved through various methods, such as double tagging or exploiting vulnerabilities in the VLAN implementation. 5. Promiscuous mode exploitation. Some network interface cards, NICs, can be placed in promiscuous mode, which allows them to capture all traffic on the network segment, regardless of the intended recipient. Attackers may attempt to exploit this feature to sniff network traffic, especially on shared or legacy network infrastructures. Question: why do we use traceroute? I use the traceroute utility for several important reasons. 1. Network troubleshooting. Traceroute is a powerful tool for troubleshooting network connectivity issues. By tracing the path a packet takes from the source to the destination, I can identify any intermediate hops, routers, that may be causing problems, such as high latency, packet loss, or routing anomalies. 2. Network mapping. Traceroute allows me to map the network topology between the source and destination. 3. Network visibility. Traceroute provides me with valuable visibility into the network paths and the intermediate devices that packets traverse. Question: how can you protect email messages? I would recommend several strategies to protect email messages and safeguard sensitive information. Implement email encryption. Enforce email authentication. Implement email content filtering. Manage email attachments and links. Educate users on the risks of opening unsolicited attachments or clicking on suspicious links within email messages. Question: tell me 3 ways to handle residual risk. When dealing with residual risk, I would consider the following 3 ways to handle it. Mitigate residual risk. In these cases, I would explore additional mitigation strategies to further reduce the likelihood or impact of the remaining risks. This could involve implementing additional technical controls, enhancing security processes, or transferring the risk through insurance or other risk-sharing mechanisms. Accept residual risk. If the residual risk is deemed acceptable based on the organization's risk appetite and tolerance levels, I would recommend formally accepting the risk. This decision would be made in collaboration with the organization's leadership and key stakeholders, considering the potential consequences and the cost-benefit analysis of further risk mitigation. By accepting the residual risk, the organization acknowledges the remaining vulnerabilities, but determines that the benefits outweigh the potential drawbacks. Question: explain the ARP working process. ARP is a protocol that is used to map a device's logical IP address to its physical MAC, media access control, address on a local network. This is necessary because network devices communicate using MAC addresses at the data link layer, while higher-level protocols, such as IP, use logical addresses. The ARP working process can be summarized in the following steps. 1. ARP request. When a device needs to communicate with another device on the same local network, it first checks its own ARP cache to see if it already has the MAC address associated with the destination IP address. If the MAC address is not found in the cache, the device will broadcast an ARP request message to all devices on the local network. The ARP request message contains the sender's IP address, sender's MAC address, and the target IP address for which it is seeking the corresponding MAC address. 2. ARP response. The device that owns the target IP address in the ARP request message will recognize its own IP address and respond with an ARP reply. The ARP reply message contains the target IP address, the target MAC address, the sender's IP address, and the sender's MAC address. 3. ARP cache update. The device that initiated the ARP request will receive the ARP reply and update its ARP cache with the mapping between the target IP address and the target MAC address. This mapping is stored in the ARP cache, which allows the device to quickly look up the MAC address for the known IP addresses without having to broadcast an ARP request again. Question: tell me about the different response codes. Here's an overview of some of the key response codes. HTTP response codes. 108x, informational. These codes indicate that the request has been received and the server is processing it. Example: 100, continue. 2xx, successful. These codes indicate that the request was successfully received, understood, and accepted. Example: 200, OK. 3x, redirection. These codes indicate that further action needs to be taken by the client to complete the request. Example: 302, found. 4x, client error. These codes indicate that the client has sent a request that the server cannot or will not process. Example: 404, not found. 5xx, server error. These codes indicate that the server has failed to fulfill a valid request. Example: 500, internal server error. Question: how do you prevent a brute force attack? Here are some key approaches I would recommend. Implement strong password policies. Enable multi-factor authentication, MFA. Implement account lockout and throttling. Implement CAPTCHA or other challenge response mechanisms. Integrate CAPTCHA or other challenge response systems into the login process to verify that the user is a human and not an automated bot attempting to conduct a brute force attack. Question: name 3 means of user authentication. The 3 primary means of user authentication that I would recommend are: 1. Password-based authentication. This is the most common form of user authentication, where users provide a unique username and a password to verify their identity. To ensure the security of password-based authentication, I would implement strong password policies, including requirements for password complexity, length, and regular updates. 2. Multi-factor authentication, MFA. MFA adds an extra layer of security by requiring users to provide additional verification factors beyond just a username and password. 3. Federated authentication. Federated authentication allows users to authenticate with a trusted third-party identity provider, such as social media platforms, government-issued digital IDs, or enterprise identity management systems. Question: explain brute force attacks and the ways to prevent them. Brute force attacks are a type of cybersecurity threat where attackers attempt to gain unauthorized access to a system, application, or account by systematically trying various combinations of usernames, passwords, or other credentials. The attackers use automated tools or scripts to generate and test a large number of potential login credentials, hoping to eventually guess the correct ones. To prevent and mitigate the risks of brute force attacks, I would recommend the following approaches. 1. Implement strong password policies. Enforce the use of complex long passwords that are difficult to guess or crack. Require regular password updates and avoid the use of common or easily guessable passwords. 2. Enable multi-factor authentication, MFA. Implement MFA across all critical systems and applications to add an extra layer of security beyond just a username and password. This could include SMS-based one-time codes, authenticator apps, biometrics, or hardware security keys. 3. Implement account lockout and throttling. Configure account lockout policies to temporarily lock out user accounts after a specified number of failed login attempts. Implement rate limiting or throttling mechanisms to slow down or block excessive login attempts. Question: what is the difference between symmetric and asymmetric encryption? I understand the fundamental differences between symmetric and asymmetric encryption. 1. Symmetric encryption. Symmetric encryption, also known as secret key or shared key encryption, uses a single shared key to both encrypt and decrypt data. The same key is used by both the sender and the receiver to secure their communications. Examples include AES, Advanced Encryption Standard, DES, Data Encryption Standard, and Blowfish. Symmetric encryption is generally faster and more computationally efficient than asymmetric encryption. The challenge with symmetric encryption is the secure exchange of the shared key between the communicating parties, as the key itself must be kept secret. 2. Asymmetric encryption. Asymmetric encryption, also known as public key encryption, uses two different but mathematically related keys, a public key and a private key. The public key is used for encryption, while the private key is used for decryption. Examples include RSA, Diffie-Hellman, and elliptic curve cryptography, ECC. Asymmetric encryption allows for secure key exchange, as the public key can be shared publicly without compromising the security of the private key. Asymmetric encryption is generally slower and more computationally intensive than symmetric encryption, but it provides a more scalable solution for key management in larger-scale communication scenarios. The main differences between symmetric and asymmetric encryption are: 1. Key management. Symmetric encryption requires a secure exchange of a shared secret key between the communicating parties. Asymmetric encryption uses a public-private key pair, which simplifies key management and distribution. 2. Performance. Symmetric encryption is generally faster and more computationally efficient than asymmetric encryption. Asymmetric encryption is more computationally intensive, making it less suitable for large-scale data encryption. 3. Key size. Symmetric encryption keys are typically shorter in length, e.g. 128-bit, 256-bit, compared to asymmetric encryption keys, e.g. 2048-bit, 4096-bit. Longer asymmetric keys provide stronger security, but they also require more computational resources. Both symmetric and asymmetric encryption have their own strengths and are often used in combination to leverage the advantages of each. Question: why are internal threats usually more effective than external ones? I understand that internal threats can often be more effective than external ones for a few key reasons. 1. Insider knowledge and access. Employees, contractors, or other insiders already have intimate knowledge of the organization's systems, processes, and security controls. They have legitimate access to sensitive information and physical digital resources, making it easier for them to exploit vulnerabilities or bypass security measures. Insiders can leverage their understanding of the organization's workflow and infrastructure to launch more targeted and effective attacks. 2. Trust and privileges. Internal threats often abuse the trust and privileges granted to them as part of their roles and responsibilities within the organization. Insiders may have elevated access rights, administrative privileges, or specialized permissions that allow them to carry out malicious activities with greater ease and impact. Exploiting this trust and access is a significant advantage that external attackers typically don't have. 3. Social engineering and manipulation. Insider threats can leverage their existing relationships, social standing, and familiarity with the organization's culture to manipulate or deceive other employees more effectively. They can use social engineering techniques such as impersonation or exploiting personal connections to gain further access or bypass security controls. External attackers often lack this intimate understanding of the organization's social dynamics and may have a harder time successfully executing social engineering attacks. 4. Timing and opportunity. Insiders have the advantage of being able to carefully plan and time their attacks, taking advantage of vulnerabilities or windows of opportunity that may not be readily apparent to external attackers. They can wait for the perfect moment to strike, potentially when security measures are temporarily relaxed or when the organization is focused on other priorities. To mitigate the risks posed by internal threats, I would recommend implementing a comprehensive security strategy that includes robust access controls, continuous monitoring, employee awareness training, and close collaboration between cybersecurity, HR, and physical security teams. Question: what's the most effective measure to take against a cross-site request forgery, CSRF? The most effective measure to take against cross-site request forgery, CSRF, attacks is to implement a robust CSRF token-based protection mechanism. The key steps in this approach are: 1. Generate and manage CSRF tokens. Whenever a user initiates a request that could potentially be targeted by a CSRF attack, e.g. a form submission, a sensitive action, generate a unique, unguessable CSRF token and include it in the request. The token should be generated on the server side and stored in the user's session or a secure cookie. 2. Validate CSRF tokens. When processing incoming requests, verify that the submitted CSRF token matches the token stored on the server side for the current user session. Reject any requests that do not have a valid CSRF token, as they are likely attempts at CSRF attacks. 3. Exclude sensitive actions from CSRF protection. Identify and exclude any sensitive actions, e.g. logout, password change, from the CSRF token-based protection, as these actions should not be vulnerable to CSRF attacks. Ensure that these sensitive actions have their own dedicated protection mechanisms, such as requiring re-authentication or additional verification steps. 4. Implement same-site cookie attribute. Set the same-site cookie attribute on all session and CSRF token cookies to further mitigate the risk of CSRF attacks. The same-site attribute restricts the browser from sending the cookie with cross-site requests, reducing the effectiveness of CSRF attacks. Question: if you were looking for incoming CSRF attacks, what would you look for? If I were looking for incoming CSRF attacks, I would focus on the following key indicators. 1. Lack of CSRF tokens. I would examine incoming requests, especially those that involve sensitive actions or data modifications, to check if they are missing the expected CSRF token. The absence of a valid CSRF token would be a strong indicator of a potential CSRF attack attempt. Unexpected request origins. I would analyze the origin of the incoming requests, looking for any discrepancies between the expected origin, the organization's domain, and the actual origin. CSRF attacks often involve forged requests originating from a different domain, so this could be a telltale sign of an attack. 2. Suspicious request patterns. I would monitor for unusual or suspicious patterns in the incoming requests, such as rapid, automated, or scripted requests targeting sensitive endpoints, requests originating from unexpected locations or IP addresses, requests with mismatched referrer headers or missing origin headers. 3. Anomalous user behavior. I would also analyze user activity and behavior patterns, looking for any sudden or unexplained changes that could indicate a CSRF attack. This could include observing unexpected actions, such as users performing sensitive tasks they typically do not engage with. Validation failures. If the application has CSRF protection mechanisms in place, I would closely monitor for any validation failures or rejections of incoming requests due to invalid CSRF tokens. These failures could signify ongoing CSRF attack attempts. And that wraps up all 50 real-world cybersecurity interview questions and answers. If you've made it this far, seriously, give yourself some credit. You're putting in the kind of prep that most candidates skip, and that effort will absolutely pay off. If this video helped you feel more prepared or gave you new insight, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps more people find this content. And if you want more interview prep like this, broken down, real-world, and easy to understand, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next video. Until then, good luck in your interview. You've got this.